Cool beans.
All right, you have now entered the agency. I'm your host, Agent M. Bey. I'm here with my man, Nalan Smartt. Nalan Smartt is executive director, creator, owner of Seasoning Magazine. He's a photographer, fine artist, creative director, curator, amongst other things. I took all these off his notes. He's got them out there for you to know. Nalan, what's good, man? How's going on with you, bro?
Man, I'm good. Man. To appreciate the shout out. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, man. I've really seen what you've been doing, the conversations, and it's been very prolific. It's been very insightful. So thank you so much for inviting me onto this, platform to converse with you today.
For sure. Yeah, I've learned that like my inspiration from the few conversations that I've had is like when you get the opportunity to listen to somebody else talk about their life and then their art and how they kind of connect. They might not make the connections all the time, but then like with somebody like me, like when I hear it, I might be able to regurgitate it back to you where it's like, man, I didn't even realize that that's been inspiring me this whole time. And like that moment is like what I like to capture on camera or just in life in general. I just love those moments. So that's what a lot of these conversations have kind of been turning into for me, just as they flow. So I do want to get into like some of your background, like let people know a little bit about where you're from and kind of where you're at, how you got from point A to point B.
Okay. So I'm originally from Staten Island, New York. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. But I spent my, I guess you say, elementary school, middle school, high school years in Staten Island. Staten Island, New York, the forgotten borough where Wu-Tang is from.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you didn't.
Yeah, no, I got to rep the Wu-Tang. Shout out to the Wu-Tang. I got to rep them all the time. But yeah, definitely. So there, and I also then migrated to Virginia for college. I went to Hampton University. I'm an alumni. Shout out to the Pirates.
Where year did you come out again?
I actually graduated 2008. And then since I graduated 2008, I stayed in Virginia the whole time. Working, doing jobs as far as like, putting my business management degree to use. But then I actually started getting more involved into the art scene. Behind the scenes, like a creative director, project manager for different things, and just been honing that ever since. You know what I mean? For a few years now. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, when we first met, so far as I can remember, at least in these more recent years, it was 2016. At the Can had the 520 gallery.
Yeah, I think it was 520 gallery, and I want to say it was. I want to say, wasn't it during? I want to say it was during our second Can Festival. Like that.
Yeah, it could have been.
Like
yeah, it was. Yeah. I would.
No. Now I remember. No. I know what it was now. It was 520 Gallery, but what I think you were there from Men's Fashion Week.
Hold on, Men's Fashion Week? Nah.
I think were you featured artist in Men's Fashion Week? Was anything like that?
Nah, never that. That was definitely that exhibition.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to remember where we actually met.
I think it was when I was dropping off my piece for the Can exhibition.
The Contemporary exhibit.
Contemporary,
yes, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah. The Contemporary exhibit at 670 Gallery.
Yes, that's the name of it. Yeah, I know.
That was the group
some
joint.
Numbers. I couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, that was the group exhibition for sure. Now,
that's where I met you and Asa. I came to drop off the piece. Process was mad easy, so I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna slide through, drop this off.
Yep. Get info. Boom. These in and out.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, because I knew that we had both been at HU, but couldn't remember if it was during that conversation that I discovered that or sometime later. We came out 2 years before I did. That's why it's interesting how these paths can cross where you potentially in the same space, sharing the same space or crossing paths, but just never really, run into each other. And then eventually those paths kind of make sense later. So I love finding all my HU connections as they come. And so you see, you got into the art scene, started flowing. You can kind of tell me about your relationship with Asa a little bit and Can organization.
Okay.
Sure.
So fun thing. All right, so me and Asa connected about 2015, early 2015, and that was basically through a mutual person that knew us. His name is Beef. He goes by Beef. Simple and Proper is his brand. But Beef is an artist out here, and he also did screen printing artwork. And he, one time I was talking to him about my hip hop showcase at Hampton
Right.
University. And I was basically part of their first, hip hop conference. So tell him about the project. He was like, man, you should connect with a guy named Asa at 670 Gallery. And I was like, 670 Gallery, never heard of it. He's like, yo, they're really cool. It's actually a group of guys at the time. It was him and some of his business partners running the spot. And I pulled up there, and then I ran into Travis, talking to him about things. And really on my way out, that's when I caught Asa. And I basically just told him about my hip hop conference, what I was doing as far as the creative director for the showcase. And literally that's when he said, yo, I got some artists that have connected with me through various other things. And, I know a couple that may be good for your show. Because in my mindset, I already wanted to incorporate artwork to be visible, to represent the scenes that I was doing in the showcase. So then that's when he referred Ray Johnson. That's when me and Ray Johnson connected. Shout out to Ray. And then literally from that point on, once Asa came to the showcase and saw the crowd and impact, then we said, yo, let's build. And then we ended up working together to do the first Can Festival, which was the first ever art festival in the city of Hampton. It was myself, Asa Jackson, and Hampton Boyer. And then the second year, 2016, we did the Can Festival again, but we spread it out into multiple events over different cities, different stuff. And I was basically more of like project management on that side. And then, ever since then, he went off, California for a little bit, came back, he did the Can. But yeah, that's kind of how we connected. He ended up forming the Can organization.
Right.
And I ended up focusing more on Seasoning Magazine, the magazine that I had.
Yeah. We're not gonna blow over this. You just said this was the first arts festival in the city of Hampton.
I made sure.
That's like a subtle thing that you would expect. It happens, or you might see some version of it, but nobody really claimed the title of like, oh, this is an arts festival. And because of I think the proximity of like the Hampton Roads area, even though it's 7 cities, they all get kind of lumped into one really. And so it's like if it's happening in Virginia Beach or Norfolk, it kind of counts for all of it, as opposed to just Hampton never put one out or put one on. And I think that's really important, because like a lot of those smaller, kind of outskirts cities outside of like Norfolk and Virginia or Virginia Beach, they kind of lose that kind of arts scene as you kind of spread away from those spaces. They kind of have little things, but they was like, they all can have their own identity. And so I think even like Virginia Beach kind of like pulled that away from pulled that inspiration from the Neon District in Norfolk. Like they got an arts district, we can have one, and seeing how they develop there. So that's fire. Y'all put on for the city. And
appreciate it. Yeah, man.
They kind of needed that, I'm sure. Because Hampton's mad little on the low. Like I've been going to Hampton for all my life. And I thought it was it for really the 757. I didn't go to Virginia Beach till I was about 16 for real. So
And what's funny about that was like at the time, just to add a little bit of history, at the time when we were doing the festival, we were talking to City of Hampton, Downtown Hampton Development Partnership about their projected stuff that they're trying to do. And they were really looking for different things to see what can attract, and appeal to their city and their community. And what was dope was like us coming up with the idea at the time was like perfect timing, because they were like, definitely like, hey, we're looking for this type of stuff. But what it also was they were looking at, I guess, something to replace. They were looking at more events to replace their one major festival that they had. I think Bay Days was like their major festival for the longest of time, like through a few decades. And that was declining so much as far as participation. And then they were like, you know what, since that's declining, we need some more events to try to, get this, scene, get more going on. So that helped out, that definitely helped out, to definitely kind of the timing of things, I would say, to try to get it going at that time,
Right. I'm going to get into more art and stuff like that, but the more you keep talking about things, the more I'm like, this is some more important information we need to hear too. Because I appreciate that you're talking about like the things that like artists might not be thinking about, because artists as creators are like, oh, we just want to make our work, we want to do this, but like being able to go into a room and talk to city officials and have a conversation about doing events and like understanding or learning, like a lot of times they're looking for the people to come to them because they can't think of all the ideas, or they might be like, oh, this would be cool, but if they do it, it misses the mark so many times because they're not involving artists or the people in the arts early enough. They'd be like, oh, we should just have a thing where we put some art up. And it's probably like the gist of it. But then like when you get an artist to come in and be like, no, this is how we can really turn it and make people show up for it, So if there's any more information, like you got to speak to like what it was like kind of going into those spaces, or how you even got into some of those spaces, or what those networks that led you into that.
All right, so the dope thing about that was, and I got to give credit to Asa and Hampton at the time. Like when we really thought about the festival and everything, we really put together our minds as far as resources, mindset, like who can we reach out to. So naturally doing an art festival and knowing that this is something that, as far as an event that you have to get certain signatures, you got to talk to certain people, get certain approvals. You don't necessarily have somebody mentoring you exactly how to go about that or who you should talk to.
Right.
So we really went through that process, to really get it done. So just to give a little insight, it was basically like you pitch the idea, you know what I'm saying, to them. We had to set up a meeting with, the guy in charge of Downtown Development Partnership. Then we had to break down the logistics. We had to have breakdown as far as site map, all the things that would be done as far as vendor breakdown, how the artists would be involved. Is it a free event? You got to really go into things and now what you're doing. Now, just because you do that doesn't mean that they're going to approve it or they want to do that. So once we went through that process of talking to the city officials, having that meeting, breaking out who we're going to have and all this other stuff, I realized at that point, a lot of people that are a part of these events don't realize the behind the scenes that goes into these things. So what I did is I alleviated some pressure. Like if there were cases where I can get the applications for food vendors myself, I'll just do that. You know what I'm saying? Instead of the food vendors submitting it themselves.
Right.
Keeping that communication going with the vendors and people involved the whole time, like as we're progressing, that's important. Not saying you got to be on some everyday type stuff, but just, hey, everything is formalized. We're good to go. I'm getting confirmation on this. Let you know, blah, blah, blah. As things change, you let your people know.
Right.
And the thing is our festival, we had vendors, we had performances, we had actual food vendors. Then we had, artists that were actually painting murals at the time. That's how I actually met Mahari. Shout out to Mahari. That's how I met a bunch of people, Sage. You name it. I met a bunch of people just from that, that whole setup. But for artists, what I would say is when you're becoming a part of these events, if you're not part of the management team or the operation team, I would say the best approach to do is to actually just offer not necessarily your services as far as what you can do, but services as far as like, hey, do you need help with networking, or do you need something that you may need? Do you need something that we can't provide here?
Right.
Because the more you can be vocal about like, hey, we might need a vendor for this, or we might need an organization to donate this, that's where your community comes out. That's where you people that can feel that they're involved without necessarily the labor aspect or feeling like they're overexerting themselves. And I would say like, anything as far as logistically, when you're doing an event with artists, you have to have a level of knowing there's an artistry side of what you're doing, and then knowing that there's a true business side.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of artists tend to not give both of them equal respect when it comes to a lot of what they're doing, because they don't take the time to research. You get what I'm saying? Like the business side, or hone in a little bit more on the artistry side. But once you start asking for money, or you're doing anything that involves compensation, man, I tell people you're a business.
Yep.
Period. So you got to start governing and looking at and being aware of what's going on in the business sector, because this is what your clientele is going to be used to, period.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to artists is like, tap into the business side, tap into entrepreneurship, tap into management, tap into logistics, tap into operations, understand how stuff works. So that way, when you go to these tables and people are hitting you with all these pushbacks because they're like, well, do you have a plan for this? Do you have a plan for this? Do you have a plan for this? Even if you don't, at least your mind is trained to, okay, these are what things they're looking for. So at least I can come to them with a proper breakdown or an assessment of what we can, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think for a lot of people, I think a lot of artists too, like they want to do a lot of these things, but they just like a lot of them just don't know where to start. You know, you come into a space where there isn't a lot of information about how to become successful or how to run your art as a business. I mean, there is now, like the word, it's an oyster out here now. You can really just grab whatever you want. But even then, like with so much information, it also becomes too much information at some point. So a lot of people also rely on things like this, like a conversation with somebody where it's like, yo, I see you. Like I've gotten DMs where people like, yo, I see what you're doing, and I'm trying to get like where you at. Like you look like you're on the path that I would like to be on, and you can guide them straight from there. It's like, all right, cool. Like start getting your resume together, or get a portfolio together. Like just put all your images together. Start getting write a small artist statement, because those small things, like once I was like my one of my biggest like goals at certain years was just like, all right, I'm trying to start applying for more stuff. Once I figured out the minimum like amounts of things that I needed to apply for stuff, it was like, it's a call for something. It's a couple days away. I'm like, well, I already got my photo of it. I already got my artist statement. I already got this. I just need to pay for it. You know what I mean? It's like,
you
I
just
already
got
got
pay
the
the
stuff.
submission.
Yeah, I don't have to go try to find something and write it down. I just got to tweak this, boom, boom, and put it out. And then that, like, because in that regard, like me working in paperwork that way and just supporting myself made me naturally like start to learn that I just started finding myself in spaces where I was doing the same thing for like other, with organizations, like, oh yeah, we need you to come sit on this committee so we can talk about these things and, put these call for artists together and things like that. And that's where you learn how to do it at the next level. And once you learn that level, like when you sit on the committee, you learn what people are looking for. So that when you go eventually to apply for your own thing, you know what to do. You know what to put together. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a powerful space to get into. So it's good that we like having that conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
So now I do want to get into the art, because I think you're a fantastic photographer. I've been keeping up with your work, obviously, and as you even said, like the energy I had gotten from you as a photographer also was always, to me at first, was like it was a supporting cast role. It was like, I'm a photographer, I make my own work, but I saw how much you were working with like other organizations or other people so much that it almost felt like you kind of used it as like it was your muse. It was your thing to kind of fall back and do. It was your hobby. But it was always done at a professional level. And so like the first time when I think when you had your exhibition at Down and Gross, you were like, I think you would put out there, should I do a exhibition of my light? What was it? I wrote it down.
Lightseeker series.
Like, should I do an exhibition of this? Like, I was like, you afraid of this? Like, bro, you already there. Like, just do the show. Like, that was interesting to hear you come from that perspective. Like, I definitely love to hear more of like your inspiration to like move into, kind of claiming yourself as a fine artist and photographer.
Awesome.
And all of that.
All right. So what I would say first thing is when I put that out there on Facebook about, hey, should I do an exhibit for my Lightseeker series? Honestly, that wasn't even a fear thing. To be honest, now we could go back because the exhibit happened.
Yeah, thanks.
When I put that out, I already got word that I got the exhibit.
Yeah.
My thing was just let me poll kind of like the people that have been seeing my craft to see what's the peanut gallery saying.
Yeah.
And what was dope about it was like, it was mad people. I remember you was up there like, yeah, of course, do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people was encouraging. So I was like, all right, so this is definitely good. I'm in the right trajectory. People are vibing. And what's dope about it was, for me, just to be clear, like I always saw my photography or artwork being fine art. Yeah, I was doing a lot of those supporting roles and definitely doing a lot of, going to a lot of events and archiving document stuff, because that was like magazine focused. In my mind. But then it was like the personal craft, I wasn't really pushing it out as much for a while, but people were seeing it through social media. And for me, it just became, a lot of different variables as far as the progression, but the vision was always see yourself as fine art, focus on creating that masterpiece, not going to photo shoots, going in saying, I'm going to take 100 dope photos. It's like, no, go in and try to create that one powerful one, you know what I mean? That can stand out and I can stand by. And then I started realizing that when I was working with people, really having a strong connection with your muse or your subject was really important. And I felt like that was almost like the most undervalued aspect of photography, especially when working with people, is that connection, meaning and also your ability to direct. So being that I had a creative director background, I had a choreography background in college and dance and all this other stuff.
Right.
I already knew the importance of giving direction to a person when you're trying to get something projected in your artistry. And that doesn't mean necessarily I need this person to do the dance exactly the same, but I need this person to understand what conceptually I'm trying to go for and how they can play a part in achieving that goal or that vision ultimately.
Right.
And to be a muse is to be a source of inspiration for the artist. So when I first started doing photography with people, I knew, okay, I can get some solid work with these people, but I got to get better.
Right.
That was just really just what it was. It was like, okay, this is a dope shot. I love the scenery. But man, if I showed you what I was doing in 2015 when I started, man, you would be like, what in the world? It did not age very well.
That's perfect though, because I was curious about like at what point, like what did you equipment wise, like what did you start with, and then how did you kind of build that up? So as you're telling the same story, kind of throw that in. It's like, all right, I started with this camera, and then I moved on. What kind of milestones you hit that was like, oh, now I'm able to get this next equipment or whatever to help my artist.
And you know what's funny? So this is the secret, right? The secret is I've been using my same camera that I started off with 6 years ago. That's a secret. That's a secret. That's not it's a spoiler, but it's just like that's what it is.
That's the artist paintbrush that they don't want to let go. It's like, now this one gives me this,
it's like that
bright
favorite
texture.
it's that favorite paintbrush, it's that favorite everything. But then you have, of course, with photography, there's camera lenses and all that plays a factor. But there's something called megapixels. So 18 megapixels is where I'm at. I'm very transparent about it. You know why? Because there's other elements to creating that shot than just the megapixels on your camera.
Right.
There's the editing process, there's the printing process, the quality, the translation of digital to print, what your specs are for that, then what type of quality paper that you're using, then when you actually frame it, what type of framework you're having. Do you have a mat? Is it signed on the back? Is there a letter of authenticity that accompanies the piece? It's all these elements that I picked up on. And then I said, okay, I don't need to change my equipment. I need to change my thought pattern and maybe just fine tune my process. So I kept the camera, been using the same lenses for the most part. What I really I understood and I learned, self-taught, not by necessarily by choice, but more so circumstance. I have reached out, this to be clear, I have reached out to photographers when I first started, like, hey, I'm trying to be mentored. What's up? You looking for an assistant? It was just kind of like crickets, no response. So I'm gonna like your photos, keep it moving. And by that time, what's funny is I had already started doing photography, right? So, I just looked at it as like, hey, I'm just being transparent. But then once I saw that the rejection was there, I didn't look at it as negative. I just said, okay, well, keep going. So I taught myself photography, but I understood a major aspect. The key to photography is lighting. And a lot of people think it's the equipment, it's the dope lens, it's all this. It's lighting and knowing how to use lighting. Yeah. So for me, being focused on color when I first started doing everything, I really wanted to control my mastery of color and lighting. So that's how, I guess you could say, my progression really took place, because over time you can see that I was getting better with the mastery of colors and lighting overall. Like, you definitely saw poses, you saw the ability for them to do stuff, you saw a good, composition in the photograph. But then it was like, over time, you're like, hey, you went from blue and purple and pinks to now he's doing every color you can think of. You know what I'm saying? These people got silhouettes. Some of these people are bold and bright. Some people, it's you get the point. You know what I mean? So I think, it's never been about an upgrade on equipment for me. It's been on an upgrade in understanding and mastery of the craft.
Right.
to get better and be able to translate my vision better
Right.
to muses and people that I work with, you know?
Yeah. I think that's something that's like innate and inherent within us. Because like we kind of come from backgrounds of kind of working with the minimum or the least, you know, whatever, working with the minimum resources and coming up with the best. I've always, over like the last few years, well, I would say like my early graduate program, like 2015 to 2016, I was like
Yeah.
studying heavy and trying to understand like the art that was like really moving and touching versus the kind of more accessible everyday art, trying to figure out what that difference was. And a lot of it was like looking at artists that were coming from, you know, third world countries and were creating such masterful, moving artworks that like resonated because they understood what their life experience was more than it was like the material or the medium. So like they might have been a sculptor and never touched a rock or clay, but were creating like sculptures out of, you know, loose what I call loose slippers, what is it? Whatever. Yeah, flip flops, loose flip flops. I guess I know
Flip
the art that
flops,
was like,
yeah.
flip flops. And it was like, but then you automatically understood that the work was about like waste and recycling, and but also could tell a story about like missing people or like because it's all these loose flip flops and like what's the story of these flip flops now? You know, it's like
Right.
as opposed to sitting there just like drawing the same image or the concept, like you get it through the medium. And so yeah, I think like when you really highly invest yourself in the material, or in the one medium that you already have to work with, and then like tell a story or your life experience through it is kind of, which is great. Which I think like what you were just defining about your work is like you were in a nutshell saying like this is what created the Light Seekers series. You know, it's like I was trying to understand and study light and photography, and this is the product that came from it. And it was probably a bunch of bad shots, but these are the ones that came from it. And so I'm gonna hop into a screen share. Is this the first one?
Hey, you screen sharing the image. Let's go.
Yeah,
Surprise,
this one is supposed
surprise.
to be the first one. Let me go
Okay, awesome.
No, this is all right. I wanted to start with this one. I wanted to get into seasoning later.
Okay.
Hold on.
That's funny. I think that's the one if that's the one that stays, that's the one that's
Yeah,
behind me, actually.
facts.
Okay, awesome. So, okay, all right. What you want to know? What you want to know?
All right, I was looking for something. I just want you to kind of just talk about I mean, for one, I want to shout out Nina for one, because this again just kind of adds to this, creates a trio now of Hampton kind of history, and which honestly, like I have been keeping up with Nina over the last couple of years or so, whatever, through Instagram and things like that. Somebody else had posted, I was like, yo, she's dope, I like her, not knowing that she had a connection to Hampton. And then my partner here in San Diego was the one who told me. She was like, "Oh, that's Nina." I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I know you follow her too, and I follow her, but like, why do all these people that I don't know her, but I don't remember her from where we all know each other from?" She was like worked in like dorm director or something. Everything. I was like, "Oh, well, I wasn't in the female dorms like that, so I wouldn't know everybody."
Yeah.
Everything, but
I got you.
But then like like we did the. I think we did 25 mics with her with the Light from All Sides exhibition, and I was just like, it was great to have that moment and
shout out to that. Yeah.
Shout out to this photograph. I mean, I'll just speak maybe to this experience and what it was like shooting with Nina.
Awesome. I'll gladly. So first and foremost, the subject is Nina Bruton. I would, just to give her a lot of props, man. I would consider her like a Renaissance woman. Right. She's a poet, she's an actress, she sings. Now she's doing a lot of hosting opportunities. She has a platform. She does interviews as well. You know what I'm saying? She's a blogger. I mean, you name it. She's an auctioneer. She got that accreditation as well. And my connection with Nina was she was actually the big sister to one of my old roommates in the past. Okay. And I've always kind of seen her from her artistry from way early back in the day. When there was something called The Blue, which was an art event, like an open mic that took place at this restaurant called Mary Helen's, which is no longer there anymore. So if you
Yeah,
if
I remember
you
that.
are in the, yeah, and the reason why I brought that up is because a lot of OG artists were involved at that time. Like,
Yeah.
so Nina was doing her thing, and basically, I already knew me and Nina had to do a shoot a while ago because we was cool. She knew my roommate at the time. We was cool people, was HU alum. And literally what happened was I just put it out there. I was like, hey, I'm working with this designer at the time, named Fanny House Collection. So she's the one that did the beads, the jewelry that you see in that image, as far as the necklace and the bracelets.
Right.
And I was already working with a makeup artist named Tierra Carroll. She also goes by Made Up Artist. I believe Made Up Artist 757 on Instagram. But she's an awesome makeup artist. We've done probably like a few shoots by this time. So I told her my concept, which was, I'm doing a Queen of the Tribe series. And it's basically like a evolution of my Light Seeker series, to where basically it's almost like your Light Seeker series, like your overarching, I guess you could say, umbrella of where it came
Yeah.
from, but then there's derivatives. So
Yeah.
the Queen of the Tribe series is my way of depicting women of color as queens of different tribes that are fictional, but have a strong representation of Afrofuturism, as well as, traditional, I guess you could say, elements of artistry.
Right.
So basically, I put out a call. I was kind of like, I'm, hey, let's see who bites, but
Yeah.
I need the right one. So literally, I was like, hey, I'm looking for a muse. I hit the date out there at the time. I told Fanny, and I told the designer, I told the makeup artist, look, I'm gonna set the date for this time. We're just gonna do it. Wherever we can get, we're gonna make it work. All right, cool. Threw it out there on Instagram. People were like, hey, some few people were kind of apprehensive to respond. Nina was quick, like, hey, I'm actually free that day.
Facts.
What's up? And mind you, at that time, I wanted to do a shoot with her and her husband, kind of like a Black love type thing.
Right.
And, we didn't get to do that and coordinate that. So when she said she was free for that, it was like, cool. So she pulled up, she got the makeup done. And just a secret behind that, the shoot is, in the way I work, is I don't give fine details. When I'm collaborating with people, I don't give the fine exact details. I just give a guidance. So what I did with the designer is I was like, I just want to see what you have. She put up a bunch of stuff, put out the stuff in the shoot. The makeup artist is like, hey, I got this idea. I'm gonna do the markings a certain way. How do you like that? I was like, hey, do your thing. I like it. Keep going. And fun fact is, I don't figure out the colors until that person actually sits down in front of me. So I don't. There's a vibe that really gets created. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really like connecting with this person. And another secret of mine, fun fact, and that's why I love to kind of share this part, is the original colors that image was taken is not what you see in post edit. So I do change my colors, but not in Photoshop. I do it only in Lightroom. You know what I'm saying? I don't actually go into the Photoshop retouching the aesthetic too much. But long story short, Nina did her thing. We had a couple shots where she had the head wrap on, but literally, I'm gonna be honest with you. She always is bald head queen. That was her signature, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I always noticed is that women always associated their hair as their crown. And that's partly why I wanted to show the different queens of the tribes, is because Black women show their hair different ways all the time.
Right.
And that's just the essence of what makes, I think, them beautiful, is their ability to be chameleon, like do bald one day and then do locks the next style and carry it so well, and then do short hair, whatever you want to call it. So Nina always had a grace and presence to the way she just kind of presented herself. But in that moment, she didn't really do a lot of shoots too much. So I had to kind of hit her with you're not a model today, you're a muse. So just relax, just vibe, you know what I mean? And I played music. I played Green Eyes by Erykah Badu. And she started singing it. And Nina can sing.
Yeah.
So naturally, the designer, you know what I'm saying, her assistant at the time, they kind of caught wind, like, oh, shoot, sing, girl. They was hyped, they was vibing. Got her in her more relaxed state. Then she gave me a little backstory on the song and how it connected to her. So I let her sing it. And then as she was singing, I let her kind of flow. And I just tried to capture certain elements as it progressed. You know what I'm saying? And then I give little subtle direction. And it was literally that moment. She was rubbing her hands and she was looking slightly to her left. She looked down and she looked up and then she looked away. And I was like, wait, stop. I need you to do that one more time. And she brought it back to that shot.
Nice.
And you see the eyebrow, you see the tribal marking, you see that she's purple. So the title of that is actually called The Future. And the reason why I called it that is because kind of like I play a little bit on Afrofuturism, but also in the sense of when you look at her look and where she's looking to a distant place.
Right.
And even though her hands are like, not like firm, there's still a level of firmness and there's still a level of grace, but there's still a forward thinking type mindset. And I always thought that, they say, the Black woman or the woman is the future, in my opinion, of just everything. Like, the more we can embrace them, the more we can empower them, they can really carry the future forward for our generations. So with her having that perspective and looking towards the future and then the colors and the brightness, I just look like, she's just so focused and determined. And this was taken, I want to say this was taken in 2018.
Yeah, I think that's what you had on it.
2018, and fast forward to now, man. Nina is just doing her thing on so many levels. She was actually featured in a national. I want to say she was featured in a project about poetry about Black people, the Black mindset. Recently, it was like a major project that's been getting a lot of push. I got to find out, but yeah, man. So yeah, she was actually the first. She was actually the first queen of the tribe, actually. So she was the first one, and I literally built a template around, all the different ones being different, based off of this.
Yeah,
but man,
it's just like it's definitely this look of just like contemplation, and I think kind of by default, contemplation is futuristic because to be thinking about something that's not happening or will happen, or even things that happened in the past, it's how it's going to affect me in the future. So like this contemplation and she's like holding that gaze so strong. And I really like just the hand positioning and like the story it tells, the composition it gives.
Appreciate it.
Like just that, like there's a fragility in the hold, but then like I don't know. And this could be because of watching Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, but like the way she's holding her fingers now, it's just like that snap there. It's like, yo, I got the power right here too. Like I might be fragile, I might look this way, but like I'm also the queen of this tribe, and I'll shut it down in a snap. You know what I mean? Because there's even that look in her gaze, like it's a look of like she's already had just like a look of strength about her in general. So like when you're able to capture it and like enhance it is
man. And that was appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. She was awesome. Like I said, what made this so dope for me personally was when I came to the mindset of starting this series. My vision is always like to put it in a gallery or do an exhibition or something like that.
Right.
But my vision, when I came to the realization of really honing in on that vision, I had a skill level to achieve. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like that character, like, how like you play a video game and it's like to reach certain levels. You could go there early, you know what I'm saying? But you don't even have the certain skill set. Your weapons didn't upgrade enough. You know what I'm saying? You don't have certain things that you could do yet to really maximize what you could do in that stage or even beat that boss character. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it just took like, I had the vision, but it took me at the skill level, you know what I'm saying, to actually feel like, yo, I can really kill this stuff. Like, and that's not it light bulb switch, like, y'all want to do this Queen of the Tribe series, and I just started building with it. So appreciate it. Word. Don't tell me you got more images.
I do. I got a lot.
Hey, he said I got a lot of images.
But for the
I know what you mean.
For the sake of concept and kind of the flow I want to go with, I got two more that's like within the Light Seeker series. So I kind of want to get a little bit of background on those, and then maybe like 1 to 2 minutes on these next two images. I'll show you what they are real quick.
Okay.
Because then I'm going to transition. Partly just want to transition on based on like your what I say, your transition from one series into the next. So if you want to kind of speak into this piece and the next piece, and then we'll kind of flow into that.
Okay. Cool. And these are what you seen on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm just pulling.
Yeah. So shout out to the Instagram m.smarttguy on IG.
That's a fact.
Yeah. All right. So this is the image right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So this image was part of the beginning point of my Fiori di Melanina series. So that's Italian for melanin flowers.
Mm-hmm.
So my concept was to depict, melanin muses with, of course, a connection to floral patterns and floral presentations, but also connected in a way where the delicacy of it, you know what I'm saying? And the delicacy of both how women view their melanin, their skin, and then also delicacy of flowers. Real flowers, if you don't take care of it, it will die. Like once you pluck them, you don't keep it in that vase of water for like, it can last for a while if you properly, maintain it,
Right.
So with that being said, like with this muse, she's actually inexperienced. She's not someone that models a lot. She actually was the muse that she actually was the same muse that I had for my cover for Season Magazine, second edition. We had a dual cover, and my image that was up there was her. And she basically the shoot that she did that was for the cover, surprisingly, of the magazine was her first shoot ever.
Wow.
But I didn't know because she showed up with the makeup artist, so they didn't tell me. She didn't tell the makeup artist. She didn't tell me until literally the end of the shoot. We were looking at her like, "This is your first shoot?" Like, what?
In what lifetime?
Okay, right. So with this pose, and this shot, like, this is one of the shots that we took as part of the series with her. And if you look at like slightly, there's some flowers at the bottom. And the whole essence was kind of like showing to me, it shows an essence of like a slight insecurity. It touches back into that delicacy that I just mentioned, right? About melanin and then flowers, and then how women, especially Black women, view both. Right. So you do have that insecurity of skin and color and tone that we have in society. Some of us, wish you were darker. Some of us wish you were lighter. You know what I mean?
Right.
The identity of embracing our skin and our skin tone has been something that we've always been, either embracing hard or kind of insecure about, right? So a lot of the times, or in the middle. But long story short, I want to give different depictions of that. So this is more of kind of like her having a sense of like timidness and expression. But what's funny is, she laughed right after the shot was taken. But, it just, look at everything. Her hair is short. You know what I'm saying? She's, in a sense, technically topless in this. But, when you look at the flowers and everything coming from it, it's almost like she's blossoming from something.
Yeah.
But it's up to her to realize what type of power she has in her own group, in a sense. So that's what I've tried to project with that image.
That's dope.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. This next one. I picked this one. I wasn't gonna do this one at first, but then I picked it because of the next photo I got. So I want you to talk about this one briefly, and then it's mostly because of the model. So
okay. So and it's funny because he's showing any ones that aren't really models. They're just kind of like, this one, her name is Ariana. AS Diggs on Instagram. But she, I reached out to her just off the strength on Instagram, saw that she does yoga, all these different things. So I was like, hey, let's shoot. I think it'd be a dope muse. She's like, hey, I'll be down. And next thing you know, this was actually like our second shoot together. The first shoot we did wasn't, all the way, nude. It was definitely just, her element, wearing what she wanted to wear. So she was topless in some photos, but this one, I was like, yo, yoga is dope. Like, let's see what you can do with yoga poses. And again, I think this image kind of shows a little bit more of like the backstory of what I've been trying to project with that connection between a muse and an artist. Like having a level of trust between each other And trust is kind of like twofold. It's not just trust as far as vulnerability of how you look and how you're being seen, but trust as far as also we're both representing each other.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Meaning like, yeah, you are projecting yourself a certain way in presentation, but how you look at the end result and how you feel, that's the main thing. You know what I'm saying? So that way confidently we can project whatever we want to project to the world. So long story short, you know, I was playing with definitely different lighting techniques as far as colors and whatnot. And how I just, you know, was manifesting things, you know, and naturally, you know, she did the pose. And I really just wanted to tap into just that sense of this was a second shoot. She was more comfortable, not just with me, but in her expression. And this is what I originally was attracted to her as far as being a muse.
Right.
So once we kind of both reached a level of trust and respect for each other, we were able to create something like this. And I believe I called that Aurora as far as the title. And that just reminded me of kind of like, you know, Northern Lights, you know, when you see that concept of Northern Lights in Alaska and how the colors kind of shift in different color tones.
Yeah.
You know, and I caught that with her, you know what I'm saying? Just with, yeah, it's interesting. I'm definitely going to be starting to give more insight into my shoots as far as like BTS probably and whatnot. So just to kind of show a little bit of the fun element in the creative process. But yeah, man, ASD, shout out to Ariana, man. She's definitely very cool to work with. Great energy, great vibe. Sorry. Had a spammer trying to call me. It was like scam likely, you know.
Yeah, facts.
But yeah, shout out to her, man. Just a dope vibe. She also has she does vegan meal prep as well. Vegan, she has a vegan. She does vegan cooking as well. I believe it's called Divinities 757 on Instagram. So shout out to her. I tried it before. It was actually good. You know what I'm saying? Definitely she can do her thing. So shout out to her, man. Good people. Good people.
Awesome. So with that, I wanted to transition into Black Marble, your Black Marble series.
Oh, I knew it was coming.
You had to know. That's what you're working on now. I had to like holler.
I knew the Black Marble was coming. I knew you was getting ready to shift to the Black Marble.
Yeah, it was because I had noticed that like I said, I wasn't going to show that last image, but then as I was scrolling through the Black Marble and I was attracted to this image and I saw you like tag the same person. So I was like, oh, I gotta figure out what the story is. That's like being.
He said I hadn't picked up on that. He's like that's the same model.
Person. So then like retelling this person's story in a different series and like how that relates and whatever. Like that's what kind of this type of things that like kind of attract or interest me with somebody like revisits a muse or a concept or an idea. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
So, first, I want to just give a little praise for like your Black Marble series. That when you first started putting it out,
appreciate it.
Like off the rip, I got it. You know what I mean? It's like the title, the imagery, it connected. It made sense. So there was nothing more for me to do but to like appreciate it from that point on. I didn't have to ask questions. Really, like I got it.
I appreciate that.
And so I appreciate that. I love when it works that well. I tend to think I personally have a much more difficult conceptual art to like to understand, but I'm cool with that. Even when I was listening to one of your muse conversations, actually, I think the next photo is actually of one of the woman you were interviewing there, and I was listening to how you were talking about like how you pick your muses and how you choose your muses and why you don't accept every person that might DM you and ask to do a shoot, in which it sounds like your interest is in the art and the story that you're trying to tell, and not about necessarily the collab or the connection to get more followers or likes. I'm trying to tell this story, and this muse fits the storyline. And if you're just coming to me to get like clout or something, like it's probably not going to connect. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then kind of get into the Black Marble series as well.
Yeah, and appreciate that, man. And that's what makes, I guess, that the Black Marble series so dope is because to be unaware of what the power of nudity or anything like that is in art or in society would be naive, right? So let's just keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking at the image, and yes, she's nude, obviously you can tell. But one thing that I've noticed, the whole Black Marvel series concept to me was me over time understanding artistry, being exposed to museums, being exposed to art history, being exposed to Black history, being exposed to culture and society and how we view these different things and how it changes over time.
Right.
And one thing that I saw was that a lot of high value artists that were in the Renaissance time or anything like that, or even just when I see a lot of artists that are considered high value that depict the human form, most of the time you can tell the human form is a non-personal color. Like they are depicted in a way where the features that are prevalent is someone that may be white or Caucasian or whatever you want to say, or European descent. When you see Black people depicted in usually a high-end position of artists, always like primal or very African tribal, in a way, masks, like we all depicted in like slavery or pre-slavery or nude, but just nude and we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
But then mind you, there's a Mona Lisa, not a Mona Lisa, but you see Michelangelo and all these depictions of like Greeks and Romans, and they're nude and they got robes on them and they're gracefully posed, but then they show people of color in the images standing by a river looking like they just got a spear and a shield, as if we at a lesser level. So one thing about that was it just honed into me saying, I'm tired of the European, I guess you say the Euro standard of beauty being idolized in fine art form without us as being representative people of color.
Right.
Like we are beautiful too. I look at it like this. Y'all want to get darker. You want to get bigger butts. You want to get bigger lips. You want to get different hairstyles that are indigenous to us with like locks, not dreads, but locks. You know what I mean? You want to make your hair afro. You want to do all these different things to be similar to us, but you don't want to give us the respect of being represented in a high end light like you are. Right. So I said, you know what, that has to change. And basically my thing was like, if I'm going to show women of color or people of color, what can be something that can be respected and connect with us as human beings? That's our stretch marks. We all, we've been desensitized to what beauty is because we've been used to the Photoshop, the retouching, the skin being smooth and not seeing, blemishes, not seeing birthmarks, just to relate to what we're talking about right now. You had a certain Kardashian come out, being upset that one of her images was going viral. Not because, and the reason behind it is because it's a quote unquote natural image of her. Right. Meaning her unretouched, unphotoshopped, her quote unquote, in some taking a photo with a friend of a friend, but it's not manipulated. She feel like she's been living her life in such a way where why should it be not her right to not have herself be seen in such a polished way if she doesn't want it to be? And the cycle. So when you think about that, it's like that's her logic on why it's okay. Right. But like let's deprogram, let's dismantle that. Why do you even feel like your natural self is wrong? Why do you feel like you have to project yourself in this polished way all the time? Yeah, from a money standpoint, we get that. But this is an image. This is what celebrities go through. Like you're gonna be seen not all the way 100%. Yeah, that's just how it is. But the fact that you can't even own your own beauty for yourself and see yourself in like, yeah, it is. That's an image, but that's me, and I'm fine. The fact that you can't see yourself in that regard, it made me realize, like, okay, I know I'm onto something. So with women of color, again, this was like a series to really empower women of color to say, the Euro standards are false. They've been false the whole time. If it was real, they wouldn't be augmenting bodies. Right. If it was real, then you guys wouldn't be sought after the way you have been for all different races, for all different fetishes. So embrace your inner beauty, embrace your natural self, and know that you are fine art as you are. Right. So, boom. AS Diggs, we've done, I posted a couple of shots from that shoot specifically, but for the conversation that she and I had, she really said that so my thing with the Black Mom series is also to have to tell their stories through their presentation. So she even told me, like, at one point, of course, women have a thing where they're insecure about different aspects of their body. That's one thing I understood with femininity as a man, is that we are disconnected to really understanding how they view themselves.
Yeah.
We know how we view them, but a lot of us are truly disconnected to how they view themselves. And once I realized, working with a lot of these musicians, having these conversations about body positivity, self-love, all these things, that's when she told me, she had an aspect where, at one point she wasn't confident in herself all the way. And now she's really tapped into her sense of femininity, where she has a self-confidence to herself and expressing herself.
Nice.
So once I understood that, I got it. And I said, okay, that was something that we understood from, like, literally a little bit in the second shoot, but this was like our third shoot.
Right.
So once I told her the concept, what I was trying to do, she was like, okay, cool. And it was just basically, again, just building that trust and that respect. And, there's more the nuances behind all these different things, but I feel like it's just a genuine connection between the artist and the music that has to be made to really connect and create something like this,
Yeah. From the get, I was like, this is going to be a powerful series. One thing that I enjoyed was that, like, the cropping of some of the images. So I'm just going to go to the next one since I can talk about that. But, like, the cropping of some of the images and how I had when I was doing my grad program, I want to say I was taking it was just a studio course. Most of the grad programs, you don't have it's drawing this or painting this. Most of it's just studio course, and you do what you do. So I had a studio course, and I was exploring, like, drawing and illustration at the time. And my professor, Christy Frederick, was like, you should do some, like, landscape type, like, form drawing where you, like, crop and I was like, my way of understanding that was essentially what I'm looking at in your photographs, where I was cropping, maybe nude images and exploring my illustrative style through, the figure or the form, but, like, cropping it so much the way it was distorting it from what it was and kind of abstracting it into something else. So I was just like, how do I take a form, a human body, and make a landscape out of it? I don't got no examples of that with me right now. I had like three or four pieces I did, but like when I saw these, I was like, this is it. And it's because of, like, the uniqueness of these women's forms and their bodies and how they create, kind of landscapes or, pools of water, ripples of, water in a way that this is like, I thought it was really powerful. So, I think this was your muse, Fahrenheit. I don't know her actual name.
Yeah. Fahrenheit. You just say Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's just what she's like, yeah, Fahrenheit, call me Fahrenheit. That's her thing. But yeah, so Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit was literally the first muse for the Black Marble series. But mind you, we worked together, a couple of times before. But one thing I respect, and she was the first one that did my muse conversation as well.
Yeah,
that's up there on IG, and I wanted to do that for a reason. Because one thing about Fahrenheit that made me respect doing the series was that there are different layers to femininity. Like, I already knew these things, but she really helped me explore the fact that there are going to be some that are going to feel empowered. There are going to be some that are going to look at this, have a sense of, maybe trauma. There's going to be some people that have a sense of self-expression. Some people are just, doing this to feel empowered for themselves. You know what I mean? But all these different elements don't downplay the next one. They're all very important to tell these different stories.
Right.
What was dope about Fahrenheit was that she already came in with a sense of confidence in herself, not just in a sense of being a woman, but a confidence in her femininity, meaning that she knew that with the concept of femininity, she can go deeper. She can go seduction. She can go super expression. She can go reserve. She can go conservative, but all these things kind of fold into femininity, right?
Right.
So what was dope about this shot was that, keep it all the way 100. This photograph was me. We done a whole bunch of shots. and I looked away,
Mm-hmm.
and she was just doing her own thing, just kind of like, just looking in the mirror. And I saw her kind of squeeze her stomach a little bit, and I was just like, hold up. And I want to say distance wise, I was probably easily a good 20 feet away.
Yeah.
Easily. And I saw it and I was like, can you do that again? And she did it. I was like, yo, I grabbed the camera, took the shot.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that was major was I asked her, like I literally said to her, what were you thinking when you actually did that pose?
Right.
And that's when she said, I was actually thinking of the miscarriages that I had.
Mm.
And then she said also the fact that I am a mother of 3. And then I said, wow. So that just really, remember, this is the first Black Mama series. This was like the confirmation of like, yeah, man, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So literally it was like, once I saw that she was literally on this wave of like, that was her mindset. I said, let me ask you this. I said, that's interesting that you said that because, I said to her, let me ask you this. Do you feel like when you went through these different things, did you feel like you had any support or connection with any male presence to the degree that, the degree that we're talking about it right now? You know what I'm saying? She was like, no, not really. And the reason why I'm saying this is important is because even men that we have relationships, we have girlfriends, we have wives, we have spouses, we have mothers, we have sisters. These are things that they're going through, and they're not going to relate to us what the experience has been because we don't go through that.
Right.
And by not having these type of conversations, we don't know how to embrace or support our sisters when they go through this.
Right.
And when I looked at just, again, women having insecurities about themselves in different ways and different mindsets, and we don't even have a clue, I said, I want us to have the hard conversations. This series is also partly to get us to have the hard conversations between men and women, even as women to women about ourselves, but also mainly for us as men to understand the woman's psyche a little bit more.
Right.
But yeah, shout out to Fahrenheit, man. That image I actually have 16 by 20 piece on canvas that I think I might raffle off, man. It's just to kind of, see who wants it. But yeah, a lot of people been telling me I need to blow that thing up though.
Yeah, like I'm like looking at it now, I'm like billboard size. That's just like that's crazy, like oversized to where her stomach is like 6 feet tall. You know what I mean? Like just inside of the hands, like I think it'll play a crazy role for like people stepping into that space and looking at something that large and being like, their current body can fit inside of her hands and be almost make them feel like, yo, I'm a child again. Like I understand what this position is again, and like this is my mother. And then it takes it to like a worldly space. I'm getting you see.
You hit it on the head because let me tell you. Don't feel that way because
No. I said I'm digging. I'm good.
Yeah, but it's dope because when a lot of people look at that image, it sparks a lot of people tapping into like, yo, I love that image. I love your series. It's almost like that image makes people truly understand what I'm trying to project with the series, the Black Marvel series. So yeah,
it's an interesting thing. It's like this is something that I feel like most people have seen in their life, in real life. You know what I mean? They've seen their mother's stomachs at some point in their life and seen the shapes, but like I was hearing it in another conversation, but it was just like, well, it was a conversation between two authors about their book Black Futures, but they were talking about like the same thing you were saying earlier too, like looking at our background and our history and seeing it as something worth like holding on to and keeping, and seeing it as like an artifact of our experience and our history, and not just something to throw away. So like, that whether it be like, some furniture or something that we've all like kind of culturally gotten used to or grown up with or seeing in a house. Like I've worked in like historic houses and being like, they literally just kept this one house that people just regularly lived in 300 years ago. And now everything in here is supposed to be like top notch, high quality, high end something. But like these things have existed in our lives, in our culture so many times, but like we don't look at them as artifacts to hold on to. They're not, we don't praise them or give them, and the only people that can give them that much credit or praise is us. Like we can't hope somebody else will be like, is this valuable? Like we have to create the value for our
Exactly.
I've always kind of looked at, well, not always, but I kind of got to a point where I was trying to understand that. It was a quote from Tupac talking about our, what was it? Heirlooms. He was talking about heirlooms, and it was like, for instance, saying we don't have no. It's like our family heirlooms is cotton, and so like that made me want to question like, what do we pass on? Generation to generation if we don't have these physical things. And I've always looked at our people as more spiritual beings and looking at life beyond the physical. So it's like, if we're not passing on these physical things, what is it that we're passing on? And I kind of related that more to like, like our characteristics, our experiences and things of that nature. Like those are our heirlooms that we have to pass on because we look at the world maybe more beyond the physical. But that's me getting into, what the conversation can get into. So I love what you're doing right now. I still got plenty to talk about, so I'm gonna just let it rock because I don't want to not have the conversation. I don't know. But my next